2-minute warning.
Oh, yes. Yes. I don't have a problem with that.
I'm losing control already.
You thought you had control?
Actually, I knew better.
I'm loving that. I miss my critters. Works for me, Baptist, know that one, man. That's why I ain't got no COVID, man.
Oh, here it is. I got it back. I just pushed buttons.
Like a little kid. Amen.
I'm calling a December 10th, 2020 regular meeting of the Roswell City Council to order. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster,
Here?
Counselor Sanchez, Counselor Moore,
Here.
Counselor Best,
Here.
Counselor Peterson,
Here.
Counselor Perry,
Here.
Counselor Robick's absent, Counselor Oropesa,
Here.
Counselor Kennard,
Here.
Counselor Stubbs,
Here.
Mayor Kintai.
Present.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask everyone to please rise while Counselor Peterson leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance and Counselor Moore does the invocation. Counselor Peterson.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to be here one more time. Father God, before we ask you for anything, we want to thank you for everything. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this present. We just thank you that you be with us as we go out throughout this meeting. Watch over us as we begin to make decisions for the city, God. Let us do it with a right mind and a right heart. In the name of Jesus. God, we just thank you for who you are. Continue to bless the city. Continue to heal. Rain down on us today, God, in the name of Jesus. Father God, we just thank you for your healing, for healing the land, for healing the nation, God, like never before. If no one can do it, it can't be. If you can't do it, it won't be done. And we just thank you for it today, God, in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the agenda for the December 10th, 2020 regular city council meeting to include consent agenda item number 11, the condemnation of 6 dilapidated properties, and to remove from the consent agenda items 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, placing them on the regular agenda, as well as moving item 7, a professional services agreement, to become item 16A and make item 16 16B. Period.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs. to approve the agenda, with item number 7 becoming item 16A. All other items as presented. Do I have a second? I have a second by Counselor Foster. So a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster. Is there any discussion or debate on the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. Counselors, please activate your vote box at that time. A yes or aye approves the agenda as presented. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Counselor, you haven't voted. It didn't come through. Did you get it, Ms. Call? Okay. All right. Thank you. Counselor Oropesa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I'm voting no, and I hate to be repetitive from last month, but I see items 13, 14, 15, 18, and 19 on this regular agenda that have not gone through committee. And the fact that they're here again emphasizes the argument that I've been making the last couple of months, that they don't have to go through committee in order for discussion to happen at the council. And so that is the reason that I'm voting no on the agenda. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. Announcements. Counselor, you may notice a slightly different arrangement this evening. This is to allow counselors who choose to be a little more, have a little more space to do so. This was an offer. I understand Ms. Call contacted each of you, made you the option to sit where you wish, and we will continue on this, I think, at least through January. The other thing is, this is the format. We will be down there on Saturday. We're starting at 10 o'clock. Is that correct, Mr. Nebb? Yes, sir. Okay. All right. So please be here at 10 o'clock for our workshop. And without further ado, our presentation this evening from Ms. Karen Sanders, Emergency Services Manager. Ms. Sanders.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to give you a COVID emergency management update. If I can click this. There we go. Today is day 275 that the State Emergency Operations Center has been activated as a way to coordinate pandemic response efforts. Emergency managers participate in a daily briefing, which includes updates from each emergency support function. This information is then disseminated to stakeholders and community partners such as hospitals, public health, schools, and government officials at least weekly, if not daily. The state EOC also receives our resource requests, which has primarily been for PPE for agencies in Chaves County that meet the requirements for state assistance. Once a week, the PPE is transported to Roswell, where our city streets department picks it up and brings it to my office for distribution. So a huge thank you to our city streets department for helping me out with PPE each week. Most recently, we have been discussing COVID vaccine planning and what that looks like at the state, federal, and local levels. At the federal level, vaccine planning began with Operation Warp Speed, which was established in May of 2020. This is a partnership between the U.S. Department of Defense, Health and Human Services, and the private sector with the goal of producing 300 million doses of vaccine available to everyone by spring or summer of next year. Agreements were made with CVS and Walgreens to vaccinate residents and staff at long-term care facilities. There are currently several potential vaccine candidates, with Pfizer's vaccine expected to receive approval first and Moderna's vaccine to receive approval within about a week after that. So an update to this slide, Pfizer submitted an emergency use authorization, which was reviewed today by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The review committee voted 17-4 to issue an emergency use authorization, with a final decision from the FDA expected within a few days. If it is approved, the vaccine distribution could begin almost immediately. New Mexico is one of 4 states to participate in Pfizer's vaccine pilot program, along with Texas, Rhode Island, and Tennessee. New Mexico was chosen due to its diversity, population size, and challenges in reaching rural areas. This program focuses on distribution and storage, and I want to be clear, it does not mean we would receive vaccine doses before any other states. Pfizer's vaccine comes with a few challenges. It must be shipped and stored at 94 degrees below zero. Rather than using a third-party shipper, Pfizer created its own thermal shipping container, which includes dry ice, GPS, and thermal sensors. The vaccine is put into the small boxes. Each small box holds about 1,000 doses, so that would be the minimum that could be shipped. And the container can hold 5 boxes for a maximum of 5,000 doses. Once the vaccine arrives, if ultra-cold storage is not available, the dry ice must be replaced according to a specific schedule, and the vaccine must be utilized within a specific time frame. Once the vaccine has been thawed, it cannot be refrozen. And this whole process will need to occur twice, as this vaccine requires 2 doses 21 days apart. Vaccine planning at the state level has been ongoing since June. A vaccine committee was created. The state submitted a vaccine distribution plan to the CDC as required, which outlines vaccine distribution, infrastructure, tracking systems, and partnerships. The Department of Health held a series of vaccine training webinars, which was followed up by a statewide virtual tabletop exercise. The State Department of Health is currently doing vaccine planning by public health region, and then they will do county-specific planning. New Mexico's vaccine distribution plan is outlined below. Initial doses will be very limited. An update last week from Pfizer estimated the first shipment to New Mexico would be for 17,000 doses. In the governor's press conference earlier today, she updated that amount to 17,550 doses. These first doses, which is Group 1A, will be offered to healthcare personnel with high exposure to COVID patients, which will primarily be our hospitals. The next group, 1B, will be first responders, EMS, other healthcare providers, those with direct contact with COVID patients. Also in that group will be congregate care settings where risk of spread is high, such as long-term care facilities, and later in phase 1, that will include homeless shelters and detention centers. As supplies increase, it will be offered to older patients with underlying conditions, vulnerable populations, essential workers, schools, childcare, and hospitality. And then eventually there will be sufficient supply that any New Mexican that wants to receive it will be able to do so. Our planning at the local level is primarily to support the state's effort in vaccine distribution and help with the logistics. Some of the key issues we anticipate are limited doses in the beginning. There won't be enough vaccine for all of phase 1A. Agencies will need to prioritize the order their staff is vaccinated. We'll be working on figuring out how many doses we need for each phase of planning. We recognize there may be a reluctance to get the vaccine. Vaccine staggering. There could be absenteeism from possible side effects. Pfizer reported side effects to be common but minor, which included pain at the injection site, fatigue, headache, and fever. Vaccines are not interchangeable. If you get Pfizer's vaccine the first time, you'll need to get Pfizer's vaccine the second time. And finally, as vaccine is readily available, we'll be working on a plan to ensure access to the vaccine for anyone in Chaves County that's interested. In summary, our vaccine planning process is designed to be flexible, given the many unknowns we have at this point in time and in this part of the process. We will continue to collaborate with the Department of Health, hospitals, healthcare providers, and first responders as we prepare for vaccine distribution in Chaves County. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Well, thank you. I have Counselor Perry and Counselor Best. Counselor Perry.
Yes, thank you so much, Karen, and for all the hard work that y'all are putting into all of this. I had a couple of questions. Number one, How did they choose the 4 states in which the pilot program will be introduced? Do you know by chance?
They chose them just based on size, diversity of population, and the ability to reach rural areas. So they thought that those 4 states represented
Okay.
a good sector to.
And you've educated us very well. It was just so quick. I know I probably just missed it. What does that pilot program detail, or was that the explanation that we will be one of the first states that will receive for healthcare workers, or did I miss that?
It's not that we would receive it first. It's that this program focuses on the distribution and the storage, because Pfizer's vaccine comes with so many challenges of needing the ultra cold storage. So they had been working all along while this vaccine was in production and waiting for FDA approval to figure out the logistics of how ultra cold storage would work, particularly in rural areas.
So I would assume that the New Mexico Department of Health will be working with the district offices and the local offices to ensure that they have the proper, but that's where it would be stored to start with. They would detail that.
Correct,
Okay.
right. The Department of Health will identify the locations in New Mexico that the vaccine will be shipped directly from Pfizer to these ultra cold storages.
Okay.
And if you're not in an area that received the vaccine directly, then it would be transported to you in the
Okay.
shipping containers.
And the only other couple of things I have to say is you said it's a 2-dose and given 21
21 days apart.
days apart. At what point do they feel like the vaccine is working? Is it upon the immediate first dose? Is it within the first week, or do you have to have the second dose before you can?
You'll need to have the second dose.
Before
and,
it is- before it is
I'm
truly-
not an expert, but
Okay.
I believe you would need to have the second dose, and even then, it's like, it takes a little bit of, maybe a week after to be effective. So
Okay.
it's not going to be an instant fix once you get the first dose of the vaccine.
Okay, wonderful. And Mr. Mayor, I'll just say one thing, and then I'll be quiet. Mr. Mayor and I were just at a memorial at Lovelace Regional Hospital. Roswell has had our first nurse to pass with the COVID, and her name was Maria, and she was a phenomenal nurse. This community is going to be lacking because of the great care that she gave. And I have had people that have shared with me before that they think that they just need to make it open to everyone. Let me just say that we have nurses and doctors that are putting their lives on the line to ensure that every one of us have the ability to be cared for. And unfortunately, that vaccine has not been available before we've lost our first one. And my prayer is that this will come quickly so that we can protect our healthcare workers, and then we'd get the help we need. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. I have Counselor Best, and I exhaust my list. Counselor, you have the floor.
How are you, Miss Karen?
Good, thank you.
Could you move your slide back one, please? Maybe,
That one?
I think it's back the other way. The second one from the last. So go back the next direction. There, whoop. Well, I'm trying to make a point.
Okay.
Is this the way this is set up and giving to the people, is this federal rules, or is this the governor's rules? Did she mandate this and bring it down, or was it brought down to her and then farther down?
The order that the vaccine will be
ma'am.
distributed, that would be in the plan that the Department of Health was required to submit to the CDC. So it's a CDC requirement. They had to have a plan that prioritized, based on their state, what order facilities would be.
So she's taken the CDC guidelines from the federal,
Yes.
and she's put them in the order she feels is good for her state.
Well, I don't know if she did that, but the Department of Health who submitted
So
the
our
document
Department of
did.
Health did that for
Our state Department of Health did,
Okay,
yes.
so here's what I'm a little bit irritated at. We have our detention centers getting this vaccine before our schools, our child care, our essential workers, and our population. That really, really bothers me, and I know I'm maybe one of a million, or it may just be me. I don't know. I feel that our children have lost a lot of time in school. I feel if our teachers get vaccinated because the children don't get it as we as elders do, that we could get our school rocking and rolling again if they would get it. I feel that our essential workers, quote unquote, actually any worker, not whether it's essential, everybody's essential. If they got it first, that we would be able to get our economic moving in this state. Our children have already lost a year and a half in school, and they're suffering terribly, mentally, physically, and everything. And I think the way the health department has put these numbers in line, I'm ashamed of them. So, thank you.
I have Counselor Foster and then Counselor Oropesa. Counselor Foster, you have the floor.
Thank you, and thank you, Karen. It was a good education and presentation. I just wanted to bring to the city's attention and express our condolences to the family of Steve Wolf, who just passed this week of COVID. He was a longtime Roswell resident who contributed a lot to our city and helped us with the Neighborhood Watch program, and he helped our city for a lot. So I just wanted to have our condolences to the Wolf family and that we're thinking of them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I have Counselor Oropesa, and that exhausts my list. Counselor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Karen, can you tell me or define your role as the emergency, what do you call them? What do you call yourself? Service manager? What is your primary task?
Well, it's to make sure that we have plans in place to make a safer community. So that involves disaster plans for tornadoes, hazard mitigation plans, emergency operations plans, any kind of a large-scale emergency that we would need assistance for, such as this pandemic, where we're requesting resources that we can't provide locally at a state and a federal level. So that would be my role, is making sure that we have plans in place for disasters.
And you consider the COVID-19, I think I just heard you say, this is an emergency.
Well, a pandemic is classified as an emergency situation, yes.
Okay. So would you consider the governor's orders, the health order, a plan of action to address the emergency?
Sure. I mean, she has the authority to issue a public health order, so I believe it's within her right to do so. And if she deems it to be an emergency, which she has, then I believe that would be true and accurate.
So do you believe in wearing masks and social distancing?
I believe it plays an important role, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that exhausts my list. I do have one more small item, though. Ms. Sanders, don't go away. Come on. Let me read this. Proclamation. Whereas in March 2020, our nation and state were attacked by the COVID-19 virus, and whereas emergency managers around our nation once again answered the call to manage, coordinate, and respond to help meet the needs of our communities and first responders, and whereas Roswell and Chavez County's emergency manager was first in line to secure needed equipment and possible funding opportunities for not only our first responders, but any healthcare providers in Chavez County. And whereas Karen Sanders, emergency manager for Roswell and Chavez County, has worked 7 days a week with multiple federal, state, and local agencies for the last 10 months to make sure the latest information is shared with all local responders and caregivers. And whereas Roswell and Chavez County continue to fight this battle, citizens can rest assured that we have an emergency manager fighting for our first responders to ensure they have the needed equipment and supplies so they can continue to serve our communities. And whereas the state of New Mexico recently announced and awarded Ms. Sanders with the 2019 Emergency Manager of the Year Award, now therefore I, Dennis Kintai, Mayor of the City of Roswell, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim December 2020 Karen Sanders Emergency Manager Month. Come on down. Come on. Let's all do it. All right. All right, let's, come on. Come on. Come on. I'm going to add a little bit while you guys are coming down here. The comment about 7 days a week doesn't do this woman justice. She does it on her weekends. She's involved in calls. I get a text message from her every single day. Every day, telling me how many cases we have in this county. I get this update. Every week we have a conference call with our healthcare providers, our Department of Health, every week. And I don't know anyone who has poured more into this community during this crisis than Karen Sanders. And I'm privileged to stand here with her. Stand, come on, a little closer. Hold your breath. Hats off to Mr. Mike Matthews, by the way, for helping to coordinate all of this and making sure yeah, Mike was in on this. I figured. All right, counselors. Next item up is item number 4, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to hold a public hearing and approve ordinance 20-14, granting a non-exclusive franchise to J&A Recycling LLC for the collection, transportation, and recycling of solid waste within the city of Roswell, contingent on compliance with the terms of the agreement.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster to hold a public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 20-14. Mr. Patterson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Once again, Councilor Stubbs' motion is so comprehensive that I will struggle to have anything left to say. Okay, but as review, the city provides solid waste collection, and pursuant to statute, it may exercise exclusive authority over the collection and disposal of solid waste. Pursuant to our city code, we exercise such exclusive jurisdiction. The council may remember a few months ago, we did pass a revision of our solid waste ordinances, which clarified that we have the right to franchise out to private companies, the right to engage in solid waste collection and disposal activities. However, the next wrinkle is that franchises themselves are also governed by state statute, which require that in order to grant a franchise, the city must pass an ordinance which becomes effective after 30 days unless it's challenged by a petition, which has to be filed during that 30 days, and it has to be signed by, if I'm remembering, 20% of the number of people who voted in the last municipal election. And if it is challenged successfully, then it has to go to a special election and be approved by the voters. So our proposed ordinance 20-14 will grant J&A Recycling a 25-year franchise for solid waste recycling, collection, and disposal within the city. I get the year 25 years comes actually out of the statute itself, so I didn't make that number up. However, exercise of the franchise is dependent on entering into a franchise agreement with the city. Everyone will recall that last month we had that agreement in front of the council and y'all approved it. So if we go forward with this tonight, that agreement will then be signed. And the agreement itself, if you'll remember, has a 5-year term with 4 options to renew. So the idea being, although it's a 25-year franchise, we come back with them every 5 years and touch base, and here's what is working and not working, and so on. This agreement was recommended by the legal committee in October, 3-0, and City Council approved it for a public hearing in November, 8-2. So now we would ask you to consider adopting proposed ordinance 20-14, granting a recycling collection services franchise to J&A Recycling, LLC. Non-exclusive.
All right, this is a public hearing. At this time, even if no one has signed up to speak on this matter, they may do so. If there's anyone present in the building who wishes to speak, Mr. Matthews will go check the other room to see if there's anyone wishing to speak on this matter, whether they signed up or not. Similarly, if there's anyone online wishing to speak on this matter, even though they did not sign up ahead of time. Let the record reflect that there was no one present in the building or online wishing to speak on this matter in either way. At this point, I'll turn to the council. Councilors, anyone wishing to comment or question on the proposed ordinance 20-14? I have Councilor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, I just think it's worth stating. I did check with staff just to confirm. I spoke with Mr. Fuentes. I did have some constituents call me concerned. Evidently, there was a statement in a op-ed or somewhere, a letter to the editor, I guess it was, stating that there are currently charges on our water and sewer bill for recycling. That is not true. There is no fees right now that is assessed to anyone within the city limits, residential. There are no fees at this time, so that is not true. Just needed to make sure that was clarified.
Okay, thank you. I have no one else wishing to speak. At this time, I'll call for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 20-14. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Gall, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez? Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
No.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
No.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes.
This vote is 7-2. Next up is item number 5. Councilor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to hold a public hearing and approve ordinance 20-15 relating to collective bargaining for the city of Roswell, providing rights, responsibilities, and conditions of continued existence and transfer of authority upon termination of the local board.
I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs and a second by Councilor Foster to hold a public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 20-15. Mr. Patterson.
Mayor and council, you'll remember that the city has a local labor management relations board established by an ordinance 4-10. This is done pursuant to the New Mexico Public Employee Bargaining Act. You can see the statutory reference there on your screen. Earlier this year, you'll remember that the legislature did pass SB 110, which revised that statute. Among other changes, one of the changes was that the provisions on local boards were amended to say that we have to now go back and reauthorize our board with a revised ordinance. And so our ordinance 20-15 is that ordinance. So we would need this in order to continue our board. And I will tell you that the one that we have there is a model that was given to us by the State Labor Board. And I will also comment that you'll see in your packet, there's actually a new version with a red line, and that is because the model that the State Board issued or promulgated, now they've changed it. It's a very minor change. They just moved something from the same line from one paragraph to another paragraph. It doesn't really make a big difference, but that is what they are now saying they will approve. So it is in there to be approved as amended by the State Board. The revised ordinance will have to be submitted before the end of the calendar year, and if we don't do that, our local board will be eliminated automatically. So that's why the mayor put this on last month's city council agenda, although it had not gone through legal committee, so that we could hit that deadline. Last month, y'all voted 8-2 to hold a public hearing on this, and so here we are today. And we're asking you to consider adopting proposed ordinance 20-15 relating to collective bargaining and the Labor Management Relations Board. And I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Patterson. This again is a public hearing. Even if someone did not sign up to speak on this matter, at this time they may do so. So Mr. Matthews is going to check the other area of the building. If there's anyone online wishing to speak on this matter, I'm getting the indication there is no one wishing to speak either in support or in opposition. Mr. Matthews is indicating to me that there is no one in the building wishing to speak on this matter in support or in opposition. Councilors, anyone wishing to speak or raise questions on this matter? Seeing no one on my list, I will ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves proposed ordinance 20-15. A no or nay rejects it. Once again, a yes or aye approves 20-15, a no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez? Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next up is item number 6. Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve professional services agreement in the amount of $162,828.28 for the design of an inclusive park in Cielo Grande area to BHI of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard, there you go, and a second by Counselor Foster to approve a professional service agreement with BHI of Albuquerque for an all-inclusive park. Mr. Nahar.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity. What we have here before you tonight, we'll consider the BHI proposal for professional services for the inclusive park. If you remember, we started talking about the inclusive park about a year and a half ago, and legislature actually gave us $1,451,000. This proposal is for $162,000, basically do the engineering and have the plan so we can go to bids. BHI was selected from our on-call engineering staff to just go to infrastructure committee, and it was a unanimous vote. The current plan is to have the inclusive park on the southeast side of the overflow parking for the rec center. But BHI will have, as part of it, we will have public input, meetings with committees, and of course, bring it to council for the final approval. Standard process that I'm used to dealing with. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for Mr. Nahar on the project? Councilor Best and Councilor Oropesa. Councilor Best, you have the floor.
Mr. Nahar, do you know any reason since this went to committee and it's 4-0 and was on the consent? Do you have any idea why it was pulled off of the consent? Do you have any?
Well, there's two reasons that you would pull it off of consent. I'll
Okay.
give you those two reasons. Number one, the council wants to do it for another reason. Number two, the council wants to hear me talk and give more information.
Okay, and this is the same information that you gave at the committee that if we had questions, we could watch on GoTo or YouTube and follow through, because we do get an agendas on this. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. I have Councilor Oropesa, and that exhausts my list. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Nahar,
Yes, Counselor.
isn't it true that any counselor can pull agenda items from the consent?
That is correct.
I'm looking at the page 62, where it says Roswell All-Inclusive Park, BHI scope and fee estimate. And it says scope of services. And it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scopes of services. But the information right below each scope of services says assumptions. I don't think I've ever seen a document based on assumptions.
Well, the assumption is, like, on the assumptions, you know, there will be a drainage report. What happens, I give them a scope of work. They ask questions. You assume certain things are going to happen. We assume the size. We have an idea of what appurtenances that we're going to put on it. But as part of the master plan for this thing right here, you assume stuff until you actually have the meetings and all the information, so then we can design, come up with the direction we're going to go as a design team. So the design team will be the consultants. It'll be 3 of the engineering staff. It'll be Parks Department. And once we have all the information, some of those assumptions will be valid. Some of those assumptions will hopefully go away. And if those will go away, that they'll save money. But on any project, we assume things, but until you do, on a road project, until you do pavement corings, geotech pourings on the bridge, you just have to assume as just a standard course of action.
So the proposal of 162,000, that is based on the assumptions, and if the assumptions are not correct, if they come up higher, that number will change?
It could change. Typically, when I've used BHI, they only charge us for what they do. So let's say the last one that we did with them was the bicycle master plan. We did not, they gave us the scope, we agreed on the agreement. Guess what? We didn't have as many meetings, we didn't do this and that, because we didn't need to, and the final bill was less. Of course, the final bill could be higher. We were to find asbestos. If we were to find a hazardous problem that was there from the old airport. But
Okay.
that answer your question?
Sure, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have Councilor Perry, and that exhausts my list. Councilor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two things. Number one, the items were pulled from consent and put on the main agenda. I just want to say that of those items that were pulled and put on the main agenda, that equals out to over $2 million worth of funding. So I do think that it is probably an appropriate place to allow the citizens to see when you're spending $2 million plus of money, and especially in a situation like this, where they see it is from the grant funding. On another thing, there was a concern over the word assumption. Another word for assumption is expectation. Maybe that's a better word, but this is not anything out of the norm, is what I'm trying to say. Anytime we have a project to this kind of magnitude, there are always those expectations or assumptions that cannot really be feathered out completely until the complete work is done, to give us those guesstimations, if you would say. So it's not out of the norm to have something like this.
Nothing here is out of the norm.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have Counselor Peterson. Counselor Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I've opposed this in the past because of the location. I'm for the park, and I want to thank the governor for granting this money to Chavez County and to Roswell. But this, everything's being put at Cielo Grande. What about the rest of Roswell? South Roswell? You're hurting the property values on the rest of Roswell. If this was south, like say on Sunset or somewhere, the property values would go up there. And I'm tired of seeing everything go to Cielo Grande. Thank you.
I have Counselor Perry wishing to speak a second time. If there's no other counselor wishing to speak at this time, I will call on him. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Just very quickly, and not being unkind in any way, but I just wanted to address that comment. We put a splash pad on the south end of town. We have another splash pad projected to go south of town. There's the consideration of a possibility of a Chisholm Park south of town. I think this council has been very good about trying to take care of the south. We put the new walking path around the Martin Luther King part since I've been on the council. An extensive amount of work has been done to the Lions Hondo. I just want to make sure that we are fair in recognizing that there's a significant amount of money being considered to be utilized and has been utilized south of town as well.
I have Counselor Peterson and Counselor Best. Counselor Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. The amounts at Cielo Grande, if you look back, there's soccer fields there. There's a lot of stuff there. Parks, aquatic center, millions of dollars. Aquatic center was $25 million. Soccer fields were millions. All that was millions and millions of dollars. So you put a bike path around Martin Luther King Park. That was not very much. You put in a splash pad that that again the governor is signed for that too, because she signed off on the pork that came from Santa Fe. You guys are fighting over the pork, and I think that you need to move some of this south or east or west, not only at the Cielo Grande. Thank you.
I have Counselor Best and Counselor Kennard. Counselor Best, you have the floor.
Mr. Lewis, what
Yes, ma'am.
would the cost of parking for this all-exclusive area park cost, the parking that we would have to put down on property, just kind of an estimate? If we didn't have it bumped up to the recreation center, what would the parking cost to make parking? Because it has to be completely handicap accessible for wheelchairs, walkers, anything else. So do we have to have 2 parking spaces, 35? And what is the estimated cost if we did not put this park here, put it somewhere else that we're not sharing parking? What would that run for us?
Well, depending on the size of the parking lot is how much it's going to cost, and then how far away your pedestrian path and everything else. I'll give you an example. Right across the street, we have the overflow. That was, if I remember correctly, roughly 200 spaces, and that was $1.7 million.
Okay.
To make comment on this project, the Inclusive Park, I was assigned this project on November 6th.
Okay.
So I thank all of you, council, for let me have my on-call engineering RFP engineers. The purpose of that is so when I'm assigned something like that, or anybody on the staff is assigned, we can get engineers on board quickly. The hard part's having a scope of work.
May I add a little bit to this as well, too? For those of you that have been on the council for a while, know that the all-inclusive park has been a vision for a New Horizons group, citizen group within the city for a while. During all of that time, Mr. Burris was working with the group, trying to find a good location for this park throughout that process. In this last year, for the ICIP, Representative Nybert and the Kiwanis Club took the New Horizon group underneath their umbrella, and they started putting their chips together in order to go. I appreciate what Councilor Peterson says about the governor investing into this thing, because they did. But I would say that the governor was aware of our location as well too, because New Horizon, Kiwanis, everybody was on board to put it into this area. So the decision was not to forego what's south or north or east or west. We chose this area for a lot of different reasons for the purpose for these children that would utilize the park. And so I want to make sure I clear that up just a little bit, because this has been a vision for a long time. And through the state, through our representatives, we're going to realize this in the next year is what's going to be really nice about it. The intent was, and there is, I think Mr. Nahar talks on that as well too, the reason for putting it close to the parking lot, it does save us on some money because we're actually utilizing the same space. So when the rec center is a little bit slow, the children and their parents can actually utilize that to get into the all-inclusive area, the sensory park and everything. So it was a little bit, it went through a lot of renditions throughout the years as we got to this point. The intent was to not forego any part of the city when we chose the site. It was chosen for a lot of different reasons, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood the whole vision of this thing started with a citizen group that saw the need within our city. So, thank you.
I have Councilor Kennard. That exhausts.
I'm not done. I have 2 more questions.
I apologize, Councilor. I didn't realize. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
Here's my next question. The splash pad that is on East 2nd was placed in that area because 1, we already had the land, and 2, the Boys and Girls Club was close, and that neighborhood needed attention. I believe $100,000 of it was donated by a private person, and
And that would have been reason number 3, because that family wanted it there at that location,
Okay.
because they had memories at that location.
Okay, perfect. So the one south of town that we haven't put in yet, that money came from our legislators, not the governor, am I correct?
Yes, it's a legislative grant.
Okay, so that had nothing to do with the governor or picking the area. I believe that.
What it has to do with the governor is she can veto any of those grants, and I speak from experience, because I had Bridge 6091, which is on the ICIP. The money was given twice to different grants and was taken away twice.
Okay.
So she does have authority to make it get through all the way to the end.
So can she take away legislative money? Because this is in Cliff Pirtle's, okay, and I didn't know that.
Yes, that's the veto.
So, good, I'm educated again, but I believe it was Cliff Pirtle and Anderson and who else pitched into that?
The mayor of the city council, Senator Pirtle is the one that actually championed the cause of this through a lot of conversations with city councilors at that time as well as staff. So I'm not sure exactly how all that money got funneled into it, but I know that Senator Pirtle made sure that a number of individuals got involved. And again, I would say that yes, with the governor, she has the ability to veto through each one of those projects, and she found that one worthy as well.
Okay, and it was a feel-good project, so, okay, thank you.
Now I'll call on Councilor Kennard. Councilor Kennard, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Nahar. So, can you give me the history of Cielo Grande? Because I want to say, and I'm going to be telling you my age, that back when I was in high school, this was the inception of that area. The idea to put everything in that one location, or the beginning of that. Can you tell me how far back that goes?
It goes back into the 80s that I've been around, or I haven't been around, but that I researched. In the 90s, we came up with the OMA plat. But yes, Cielo Grande, the original, there was supposed to be a swimming pool, amphitheater, and all sorts of stuff, and that was the latest renderings in the 90s. And that's when the plat came through. But it's always been the idea that the old municipal airport, OMA, that either all or a majority of it be a centralized recreation complex. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So, from what I'm hearing, this has been over 40 years in the making to put, so people that were here in these seats 40 years ago were making the decision to centralize all of our recreation in that area. None of us here came up with that idea.
Yes, the
Okay.
inception came back decades back, and staff, through direction of council, has slowly been building on it. I would ask council, Councilor Foster, Councilor Moore, I will be attending the General Service Committee, giving you updates on all the projects that engineering is dealing with, that deals with the general service. Listen to my presentation, get the packet, read the part of scope of work on the baseball field, Cielo Grande Sports Complex, as the legislative grant says. I will make a comment to, and Margaret, and thank you for leading this into it. Of course, City Manager, they put the engineering chart sometimes because we like to plan, we like to look ahead. The one thing that I've had a little trouble with the Cielo Grande complex is, and if you read my scope of work, the words I used were a hodgepodge. I was the engineer that was charged to build Cielo Grande soccer fields, the first thing. The first thing that my staff and I said, where's the field material? You just want to peel off the pavement and build parks, build grass? What about the drainage? We were told to build it per plan. We built it per plan. We had drainage issues. We had the kids complaining there was too many rocks in the grass. One thing that we've had to deal in engineering, we had to go put the concession stand out of the blue. We had to put the stadium seating. All this was hodgepodge. What I'm looking forward to doing with the Cielo Grande baseball complex, you have to have a plan. When you ask about parking here, when you bring in other stuff, when you bring in hike it, spike it, when you bring in tournaments, everything, where are you going to park everybody? If we're going to have a Cielo Grande sports complex, let's have a plan to have a good one. Let's have it properly planned. Let's have infrastructure, and let's build it from underground up. And yes, we don't have all the money, but we have a plan, and we'll build it as we go, just like we do at our houses. We have plans, and we slowly build.
Done?
Thank you, Mr. Nahar. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, that exhausts my list. At this time, I'll ask for a vote, a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves the professional services agreement between the City of Roswell and BHI of Albuquerque to design an inclusive park at Cielo Grande. A no or nay rejects the professional services agreement. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Said yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Moore?
Yes.
Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
No.
Counselor Perry? Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-1.
All right, thank you. Item number 7 has been moved to become item number 16A. We will now move to item number 8. Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move to approve plant mix wearing course overlay Nova Chip to Brazier Asphalt Incorporated in the amount of $629,738.82 to be done utilizing state price agreement.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard. Hit the box, please. That's okay. And a second by Counselor Foster to approve the awarding of a plant mix wearing course overlay to Brazier Asphalt.
AKA Nova Chip.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Nahar.
Mayor, council, again, I thank you for the opportunity to come up here, and I will have more to say than what's on the slides. Y'all have been around me long enough. Of course, this is for the PO to Brazier Asphalt. The amount given, it's using a statewide contract. This is for Country Club. I mean, this is for North Main, from College to Country Club. If you've ever noticed when it rains, we get a lot of runoff over there, and that runoff and then the friction from the vehicles is just tearing it up. Even though we did a job in 2012, just the water tears up the pavement. At the infrastructure committee, we kind of went off on tangents on potholes and people watering too much. I asked the public, don't water the streets. That's what grows the potholes. Keep it within your yard. This one does have some DOT money. They didn't give us all the money that we requested, but they gave us $161,000 and change. Council, I'm still working to get more money. I'm still working to get money and save us where we can. I would direct your attention to page 84 in your packet. So March 11th, Engineering Street Department, we presented to City Manager Joe Nebb and to Juan Fuentes, our Finance Administrator, and we wanted a plan of $4 million to do some work. All the streets are listed, everything else. We put in the $4 million request, okay? So due to budget, due to COVID and everything else, that's what we came up from. I want to remind the council that when we did the pavement condition study, $5 million was just a number that was very minimal. We're still going to keep failing at a pace with the roads beyond what we're failing right now. Recommended just to keep up was $10 million a year. Recommended was $60 million a year. I know we won't ever get there without a miracle, but I just want you all to know, again, as city engineer, infrastructure is very dear to my heart. Streets are very dear to my heart. So we came up with a $4 million program, which was still mediocre. We're now going to actually do a $1.8 million program. So if you look on page 84, the next three items that we're going to have the Brazier Nova Chip, we're going to have the industrial hot recycle, and we have the IPR. These are maintenance items. The streets are listed in our notes. Also, the streets that we're not doing are listed in the notes. So fiscal year 21, hopefully next year or even sooner, I hope to have those same streets that we're not doing, they're on the front of the list. So we just want to go down this list. This list is part of the pavement condition 5-year plan, plus under what Streets Department Superintendent Quinn Miller says, these are the streets that are a big problem. So I'll say it one time, I won't say it for the other two items, but we need to think a little bit more of our streets. I know the citizens, that was the #1 complaint, and I beseech mayor and council, when you guys think about stuff, let's think a little bit more of streets. And yes, I agree, streets in all 4 directions of the wind, we put a little bit of the money there. So what you have before you is the Nova Chip. The last time we did Nova Chip was Southeast Maine. That's what we did with the DOT back a few months ago. That's what we're going to do on North Main, and that's what the vote you have in front of you now. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I have Counselor Stubbs and Counselor Best. Counselor Stubbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to call to everyone's attention, page 84 is the old 84 before there was the things inserted. And so now we're actually referring Mr. Nahar to page 90, if I'm...
Thank you,
Okay.
Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Best.
Okay, my question is, when I was chair of infrastructure, we had a street report that a company came in and did and suggested how we should work with each of our streets and did all that. It's over 800 or 8,000? 800 pages, correct?
I don't remember. It's thick.
I think it's like 2.5, 3 inches thick. Okay.
And I think I emailed it to everybody.
Correct. So what I assume like to offer to the public that continuously complains about our streets because we're doing the best we can with what we've got, I would like them to ask, and I think that has to come through an IPRA, am I correct, Ms. Call, for the report? So they'd have to send in a request for them to get the report, and I would love for the public that is having such a hard time with this to read it, to become informed and educated on how the streets need to be repaired, because there is a list. I know it's the hottest fire first, but there is a list on which streets.
I believe it's on the website, but I'll double check with public information and make sure that it's on there.
Okay. And if they want to get it, they can always bring a jump drive and we can download it, and that would be a lot easier for our staff and a lot cheaper, because it's, I think, a
Or
buck
you
a
can just
page.
get on the Fix-It form. I have it in PDF version, and I can email it to you
Okay,
direct to your
perfect.
house or wherever you want to read it at.
Perfect. So can we maybe put that on our homepage somewhere in there, saying that that report can be?
Counselor, I'd be happy to get with Juanita in Public Affairs, and we can find the appropriate place to put that document in when we get it from Lewis. That's not our problem.
Thank you, because since now we're quarantined, everybody has plenty of time to read that 800 pages of report. Thank you.
I have Counselor Orpesa. Counselor Orpesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Nehart, did I hear you correctly when you said there was $4 million in the budget for the streets?
It was a budget request for $4 million. It was a request on behalf of engineering and street department, and it was denied. So streets department and roads, when the budget issues came, we were put on hold. And now there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We're reshuffling some schedules with our projects to have some sort of a pavement maintenance program. But the budget was never there. This is what we've been able to get out of this budget.
And my understanding is the request was done through finance to approve $4 million or?
Negative. It was just a sit-down meeting that I had with Joe Nebb, Quinn Miller, and Juan Fuentes. It was just a standard staff meeting. Let's go over, what are you guys thinking about streets?
Because if I remember correctly, did we not discuss setting aside $5 million, even though the study that was done, they advised that we should put like $16 million a year?
Correct.
The discussion in infrastructure was a recommended minimum $5 million a year value. Yes, correct.
But we never set it aside.
It's never made it to any committee to pass. This was the first attempt that we had, trying to go with $4 million, because we knew things were a little bit lighter in the budget, and that was the list that we came up with. But there has never, to my recollection, never been no $5 million budget set aside.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and not to get too confused with everything, but we'll get better information for you. But the road fund is set at $7 million within the budget today. So for this year, the budget for the road fund is $7 million. What Mr. Nahar is talking about are the projects above that $7 million, because that $7 million covers all of our operational costs and everything else out there. So when we put this budget together, remember that the budget had a $31 million reduction in what it was from the previous year based upon what we think our revenue estimates would be in. And so that is what happens within that budget when you brought it back. So everybody ended up losing some money within that. Mr. Nahar is expressing his concerns with the need for the streets. And but just so you're aware, we are spending $7 million on the roads. It's just going to different things from what it was. we are trying to keep up with all of this, and they're doing a great job of doing what they can with what they have. So hopefully that helps explain it, but we can get better numbers for you if you want to have a longer conversation about this at infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
That exhausts my list. At this time, I'll ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the contract to Nova Chip. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez? Yes. Counselor Moore? Yes. Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you. Next up is item number 9. Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve hot in-place recycling of asphalt pavements to Dustrol Incorporated in the amount of $699,706.77.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard and a second by Counselor Foster to approve the awarding of a contract for hot in-place recycling to Dustrol Incorporated. Mr. Nahar.
Mayor and council, again, this is part of the pavement management that we're doing this year. The picture you see on the screen is the hot recycle train, is what we call it, that we did on South Main. That was the last time they were here. It is a statewide contract, and you already heard my comments about streets. So what you have before you is the agreement with Dustrol Incorporated out of Kansas. They can come down in March and start hot recycling.
All right. Any comments or questions, councilors? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of this hot in-place recycling of asphalt pavements to Dustrol Incorporated. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the contract. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez? Counselor Sanchez?
He's trying to push his button. It's there. You've already voted.
Yes. Okay. Counselor Moore? Yes. Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next up is item number 10. Councilor Kennan.
Sorry. I move to approve the microsurfacing to IPR LTD in the amount of $478,320.23.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard and a second by Counselor Perry to approve the awarding of a microsurfacing contract to IPR Limited. Mr. Nahar.
Mr. Mayor, I'm having fun.
I know.
Mayor and council, what you have before you is the PO request to approve the agreement with IPR Limited out of Albuquerque, another statewide contract. Okay, so we've done the hot recycling, we've heated it up, we've added some more emulsion to put it together. The next course of action you want to do is put some sort of coating on it. We're putting a microsurfacing, because it's the most affordable and it still works. We did this very same process on Country Club between Main and Garden. We did the hot recycle and we did the microsurfacing. So the list is in the package, and I ask for your approval I can coat the recycle once we're done. Thank
Okay.
you, Mayor.
Thank you. I have Counselor Best. Counselor.
On these three that we've just voted on, or 4-3, are these the 80-20 percentage with the state, or is this all Roswell?
Negative. The hot recycle, Counselor Best, and this microsurfacing is 100% city money. We have, right now, I have no projects. Well, I have an 85-14 project, which is North Atkinson, but the normal 80-20, 85-15 that you're speaking of with DOT, the last project I had was South Atkinson. The next one I'll have is North Atkinson. And the DOT projects, just so you know, we are members of the SERPO, Southeast Regional Transportation Planning Organization. The city of Roswell got the last project money available, and that was the North Atkinson project. It used to be $1 million a year that all of us would compete for. I pride ourselves in the engineering department. We were kind of like the Patriots. They didn't like us when they saw us because we were always being more competitive. But thank you, Councilor and Mayor, to having an engineering department that we are around to compete for y'all.
Okay, so for an understanding for the folks in TV land, we do have certain grants where they're 80-20, 85-14, but also we have these that we have to do that are all us. So they probably don't know that division. If they need to know that division, please call Lewis. He'll be glad to answer your call and definitely talk to you.
Councilor Best, may I also add that every month at Infrastructure, Engineering provides the engineering project update report, and it's also put on the website. They're welcome to look at that and see all the money breakdowns, percentage of breakdowns, and status of projects, projects on hold, projects on completion, audit, et cetera, et cetera. General Service Committee, you're gonna see that report too. I put it in the packet, or it's already been submitted for the packet. So any project there on the engineering, what I call it the project update, the dashboard, I will be glad to talk about these projects.
And I want the public to know we're very transparent. You can see all of our meetings on GoTo. You can participate because we ask at the end of each meeting for public participation. You can come and sit with us. We don't have a problem where everybody's 6 feet apart, they're with masks, whatever needs to happen. But we are very transparent. Our committees are very truthful and honest and forthcoming. And our consent agenda is so we can move through these nights a lot faster and not spend a lot of nights here. So we'll get it worked out. We have a workshop on Saturday, like we were saying, and we'll get it worked out. So thank you.
I have Councilor Foster and Councilor Kennard. Councilor Foster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Nahar, the last two, 9 and 10, about $1.2 million, correct? Little shy of 1.2 million, and they're for parts of Maine from College to Country Club?
No, if you look at the list, hot recycling and the IPR are not on North Main. They're away from North Main. The only thing we're working on North Main is the Nova Chip, item number 6, I believe, or 7.
Number 8.
Number 8.
The Nova Chip? Okay.
Yeah, that's the only one that's going on North Main Street. And that one I did go to the DOT because it is Main Street to get some help, and they did kick in a little bit.
Okay, well, that was my question.
The rest of it is all 100% city streets, Councilor Foster.
And that's what I was trying to find out for sure. All right, I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, I have Councilor Kennard, and I exhaust my list. Councilor, you have the floor.
I did just want to mention, since we do have the committee meetings, and I did want to invite everyone to infrastructure on 12/28, that you can either attend in person or on GoTo. All of these things have already been dealt with, and not that I don't want to hear from you again, Mr. Nahar, because I think that since I'm on this committee, I really find all of this stuff pretty interesting. But it is frustrating to rehash it over again on this evening. I mean, a lot of good questions came out of it, and I'm not going to deny that. We have a governing body rules of order that we follow, and this is not to you, this is just in general. And until such time that it is changed, I wish we would just follow the rules of order. And if you have questions on what's going on in the committees, every one of us has emailed the agenda for each of the committees. And so other counselors express their frustrations. I'm expressing mine right now because we're having to do this all out here. Thank you.
All right, thank you, councilors. I'll now I'm going to call for a voice vote. on this one. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the contract to IPR for microsurfacing in the amount specified. A no or nay rejects it. I'll ask you to activate your vote box at the same time. Once again, a yes or aye approves, a no or nay rejects. All those in favor of awarding the contract signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Councilor Sanchez, your vote box. All right. 9-0, it passes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 11 was approved with consent agenda. Item number 12, quick explanation. Minutes were not available for approval, even though they are technically required to be, but Ms. Call has limited time. There was staff issues, and they will be presented to the council on January 14th for the November 12th. This takes us to item number 13. Councilor Perry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if you would allow me just to say that Finance did not get to take this up because we did not have a quorum. But for everyone's information on the agenda abstract, Mayor Kintai did place this item on here for us to hear this evening, which is within his abilities to do so. With that, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 20-72, which would be Spring River Zoo fee schedule.
I have go ahead and activate your, I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Foster to approve Resolution 25-72. Ms. Cole.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Today I'm here to present you Resolution 20-72, Spring River Zoo fees. I wanted to give you a brief background on how we got here today. Last year, the City Council approved Resolution 19-83, establishing cost recovery levels for Spring River Zoo. As part of that cost recovery, we are required to meet 5% of our operational cost in the first 2 years, 25% by 2022, and 45% by 2023. Resolution 20-72 for zoo fees will help us get there. And so what I have for you today is a little bit of fees that are comparable to other zoos across the state of New Mexico, as well as opportunities for our residents. I will start with Exhibit A and tell you Spring River Zoo rates are comparable to the fees that you recently passed for the Museum and Art Center, as well as the Roswell Recreation Center. The first admission rate would be for adults 16 and up, Roswell residents $5, and non-residents at $10. Children 4 to 15, residents $250, and non-residents $350. Students age 16 and up, as well as seniors, active military, and veterans will be at a reduced rate of $3. Groups of 10 or more would also be $2 per person. And of course, school-aged groups or private operators, including chaperones with a reservation, will be at $2 per person. We understand that this community needs free services, and for that reason, we have included in this fee structure opportunities for our residents. The first one is that all children under 3 will be admitted for free. The Friends of Spring River Zoo members will also be admitted for free to the zoo with their membership. It is also equally important to provide this service for those who do have financial hardship. And for that reason, every first Saturday of the month, all Roswell residents will be admitted to the zoo for free to experience the opportunities we have there. Additionally, we understand that our senior population is equally important, and we want to provide them free access to our zoo each and every Wednesday. We also want to celebrate the great experience of our animals and history of Spring River Zoo, and so we are reestablishing Spring River Zoo Day, which is July 31st, as that was the very first day our zoo opened in its current location in 1966. What a great celebration for our community, and we hope that everyone will come out and experience the amazing animals and all that we have accomplished. Last but not least, but most importantly, our park will remain free for our Roswell residents and visitors to enjoy. It's an open space, and we really do hope you will approve these fees today. One other thing that we have included in this resolution is the opportunity that fee exemptions may be made at the discretion of the department head for promotional and programming purposes, and for those individuals and organizations for which a financial hardship would otherwise prevent access to our zoo. I'm going to direct you to the next slide, where I'm going to show you comparable rates to other zoos across the state of New Mexico, as well as in Texas. If you look on the screen, Alameda Zoo in Alamogordo is very comparable with their admission rates. Hillcrest Zoo in Clovis, New Mexico, again, very comparable, and we're actually a bit lower in some areas. Living Desert Zoo in Carlsbad, New Mexico, our rates line up pretty similar, but still are a little bit lower in some cases. Albuquerque Biopark, as well as the El Paso Zoo, are very competitive, especially for visitors. This year, due to COVID, we have been closed, but we found a way to still share our zoo with others by providing private tours. The tours were donation-based at $10 per person. We have had 52 tours, which resulted in $2,600 in donations from local residents, as well as visitors. We want to still offer this private, intimate experience at Spring River Zoo. I share this with you as people from Roswell and visitors are already willing to pay for the experience we have to offer. We believe the rates in this resolution will continue to support our cost recovery goals set forth by the full council, as we have already seen the individuals from Roswell and those visiting are willing to pay $10 to come experience the zoo. Today, I ask you to consider approving Resolution 20-72. I will stand for any questions and thank you for this opportunity to present this information.
Councilors, any questions or comments? Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make some comments. I just want to tell y'all, I am just overwhelmingly impressed with what has happened out at our zoo. I don't know how long it's been since our counselors have been out there. I took called Mr. Burris and said, can you make some time to take me out there? And Counselor Stubbs did the same thing, and we spent an exuberant amount of time out there that day. I was impressed by our staff that works the zoo out there. You would think that a zookeeper feeds animals. They had paintbrushes painting metal pipe. They had shovels digging holes for rope fencing. They had rakes in their hands, raking up where leaves and stuff had come in the way. Took the tour and looked at it. It is night and day, and we've had some wonderful people through the years, some great leaders and workers out there at that zoo, and each one has just added a little bit more on top. And with Jim and the cooperation that we've seen between not just the zoo and not just the parks and not just the rec, working together, all the departments to make it what it is. The entrance of the zoo when you come in there, where the foxes and the different things, the coyote fencing that has gone up there, it adds to the experience. The wallabies, or whatever you call them, mini kangaroos.
They're Bennett Wallaby.
They're what?
Bennett Wallaby.
I'm going to trust you on that one. Okay. Even the goose looks happier.
That's Cecilia.
Mr. Mayor, the work that this staff has done, the mountain lion exhibit, I would put it against anything in the nation. It is state of the art. I didn't get close enough to ask that cat how happy it was, but it looked to be very happy. With the bison, moving lean-to structures closer so that the experience is much greater. Even the eagle exhibit, the work that's been done in it, there has been a lot of extensive work done. That beaver, we're going to have two again. It's going to happen, but it's a lot has gone into this, and I tell you, one thing we need to recognize is the zoo has never been free. That's just a fact, and I don't mean to be unkind, and I'm not trying to say anything at all disrespectful or of anyone who would feel like it needs to still not be charged. There's a difference between not having a charge and being free. The fact is the zoo has been subsidized 100% by monies that could be utilized for the roads that we've been discussing and talking about for those parks that we've talked about that could be utilized in the south or the east or the west or those other areas, for the police department, for all the other services that a city entails. What has happened is it's not been free. We've been paying for it as taxpayers for years, but we paid for it with a cost. It has cost our other services to not be able to have some of the things that they needed as well. We can't put in a toll booth at the top of Richardson to make money back for our roads. This is a means where we can. So I think as a council we need to consider that. And one other thing I want to say is the fee schedule you put together still allows every citizen the ability to still visit their zoo without paying fees. There's still the ability to do so. So I just wanted to add that to it. I think this is very minimal. I think it's appropriate. And I look forward to seeing that with this, being able to grow even more and do more with those other areas of the zoo that you still have to work on. Great job. And you have my complete support.
Thank you.
I have Councilor Kennard, Stubbs, and Oropesa. Councilor Kennard, you have the floor.
I just wanted to thank you for taking the time to show me around the other day. And I want to say that I appreciate that you have considered those that may not be able to get into the zoo in this fee structure with the charges. You know, I think that this is a good opportunity for everyone. I think it considers everyone, so thank you.
All right. Councilor Stubbs and then Councilor Oropesa. Councilor Stubbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I have to echo what Councilor Perry said. I hope everyone gets a chance to go and see what you all have created out there at the facility. It's truly amazing, and I appreciated the time, too, that everybody spent with us. I'd also say if you have not seen the Facebook presentation that was done, I believe this week, go to the city's Facebook and look for the zoo presentation. It's really good. I just have one simple thing, and I mentioned it. I've mentioned it before. On page 122 of our packet on Exhibit A, just a really slight change, if we could, at the top where it's listing the Spring River Zoo admission rates. The last one says school groups, including chaperones. I just want to insert the word school age groups, including chaperones, because it's not just school groups. We've talked about that. So if we could just insert that word age, and I didn't even think about, I need to make a amendment to the motion.
Go ahead, Councilor.
I think I do, so please forgive me. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend the original motion in Exhibit A, the last bullet point under admission rates, to insert the word age after school, or between school and groups. So it reads school age groups.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Stubbs to amend Exhibit A using the phrase school age group instead of school groups. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilor Foster. We are now on the proposed amendment. On the proposed amendment, is there any discussion or debate on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the amendment. Councilors, activate your vote box when you respond. A yes or aye approves, a no or nay rejects. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Councilor Sanchez. Oh,
He stepped out.
Okay. So we have an 8-0. All right. We now have an amended resolution. Councilor Stubbs, you still have the floor.
I'm through, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. I have Councilor Oropesa. Councilor Oropesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Cole, can you tell us the zoo itself, does that include the carousel and the train?
In the admission fees, no, it doesn't. The fees currently for the train and carousel are 50 cents each, and that money goes back into the maintenance of both of those.
So it's not part of the zoo?
Not a part of the admission fees, no. It is a part of the zoo, yes, sorry.
So if kids just want to go to the park and ride the carousel or the train instead of going to the zoo, are they going to be able to do that?
No.
It appears to me, and please don't take it personal, because I know, I know you got higher ups that you got to answer to. But it appears to me that we're eliminating the ability of kids that perhaps are not willing to go to the zoo for whatever reason. Maybe one of them is not able to pay the fees. But I believe that the zoo should not include the carousel or the train. That if kids can go to the park, perhaps they can be able to participate or get on the rides without having to pay a fee for just going into the zoo when their interest really isn't the zoo.
We do have the free days, so we have the free Saturday, the free July 31st, so they can come ride the train and the carousel on those days if they just want to do the train and carousel, so they can still have access to that without paying for the zoo.
And I appreciate that, but those free days are limited to certain days, right?
Correct.
So if you got kids like on a Sunday, Saturday, or whatever, and the carousel and the train are open and they don't want to go to the zoo, should they not be allowed to ride the carousel and the train?
Well, and that's also why we have the fee exemption. So, I mean, if there was a special case, like maybe they can't come on the Saturday, and they can only come on a Tuesday, that's why we have the fee exemption, so, and say, okay, you can't honestly afford it, so we'll let you in. I mean, that's why we're putting that in this admission package proposal.
But the bottom line is, they still have to pay or go through the zoo in order to make use of the carousel or the train.
Yes.
See, and I don't agree with that. I think the carousel and the train should be away from the zoo. The carousel, can you tell me the history of the carousel?
I know it was put there in 1972, I think it was. I'm not 100% sure. Jim is better versed in the carousel history than I am.
Excuse me. Because if I would think that the individuals that donated the carousel was solely for the purpose for the kids to enjoy it. I would believe. And the same thing with the train. So if you cut off the carousel and the train from the park and make it part of the zoo, are we going against the wishes? And again, I'm assuming that those were the wishes of the individuals that donated the carousel and the train.
I believe so, but I would have to, honestly, I would have to look and see what the proclamation says.
Mr. Mayor, City Council.
Counselor.
Just really quickly, a little bit more broader background with this as well, too. When the city did the master plan for the zoo, we looked at the Spring River Park, we looked at the zoo portion as well. We considered all those options when we established what that area is. I appreciate what Councilor Rapace is saying. But because of the location of where the train is loaded and unloaded at, where the carousel is located, it was impossible to separate those entities from the zoo itself. So while I appreciate what Councilor Rapace is stating, there was no way physically to make that, but I think that's where Ms. Cole runs through the extra days, because the facility is closed during the evenings and everything else, so there are hours when it's open, hours when it's closed and everything. So I think we were trying to meet a happy medium with what we set. But Counselor, you are correct. We have not heard any issues from the individuals that have donated the carousel. I know we're in a big renovation of all of the equipment within there right now, so they've been working closely with us, and so I hope hopefully that's information there is just a little bit more helpful with that. We did look at that. We were not able to find a way to make it work that way, so you are correct that individuals that wish to use the train and the carousel, they should come on the days when it is available, when it's open. If, again, we will work with any of our residents if there is an issue with any of that. We're happy to make those arrangements as well too. The train there is a price for the train, there is a price for the carousel. And now we're discussing a price for the zoo. So I don't know if that helped entirely, but I wanted to make sure that we did talk about this. We've talked about this for the last 3 years, I think, as we were doing the master plan. Thank you.
Mr. Knapp, thank you. But I respectfully disagree with you. I've always been taught anything's possible. And so if we want to separate the zoo from the carousel and the train, I think that would be a possibility to be able to do that. So the next thing I want to address, when you say 5% of recovery, how much money are we talking about?
It would be 5% is 25,000.
I'm sorry?
5% is 25,000 of our budget.
Okay. So when you up it up to 43%,
It's, hold on, I have it actually here. 45% is 229,000.
so that means that the the fees are going to go up.
We would have to base it on how, after we implement these fees, it would depend on how well people come to the zoo. We also have other opportunities like behind-the-scenes tours, birthday parties do really well, animal encounters. There's other opportunities that we can do to help get to these numbers in addition to these fees.
Okay. Well, I was reading the city manager's email concerning the American Airlines. And it seems like we're willing to waive 58,000 per month? Is that the amount?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and I will cover that in my report at the end of the day, but yes, the October parking fees for American Airlines planes was 58,000, and some change on that, but approximately $58,000.
Well, my point is, we're willing to waive fees for a company that, for the most part, the only ones that use that are the ones that really have some money to travel. But we're not willing to not apply any fees for the children, is my point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I have Councilor Best and then Councilor Foster, and that exhausts my list. Councilor Best, you have the floor.
Ms. Cole, I just want to say I've watched you grow up, and I know that agriculture is your background, and animals always come before yourself, because I know that's how we taught you and how we taught the kids. I want to say thank you for coming so prepared today, because standing in front of us, we're scary. I've been in your position, And we're very scary up here, but your
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. But your history with FFA 4-H has done you very well. And I just want to say I'm so proud to have my girls grow up with you and where you are today. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I can understand the goose being happy because that's what us agriculture do. We make our livestock happy. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I have Counselor Foster and then Counselor Moore. Excuse me, that wasn't COVID. Counselor Foster and then Counselor Moore. Counselor Foster.
Mayor, thank you. I too wanted to express thanks for all you've done at the zoo and how wonderful it looks. I don't believe the goose is happy because I've just never seen that goose happy. But anyway, I do believe the beaver was, and I definitely saw the lion was, and I am excited for the kids of Roswell to get to see our zoo. And I do think you've made the opportunity for all Roswell residents to be able to see it for free. And I just wanted to reiterate, it's never been free, though. We've always been paying for it and subsidizing it. So I appreciate all that you've done, and I do think it's going to be a wonderful experience once we finally get to open it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I have Counselor Moore and then Counselor Peterson. Counselor Moore, you have the floor.
I also want to thank you for coming prepared and having all of my questions already ready. I guess you already heard me whine at the other meeting, but I still have trouble with paying, and I understand the you know the word I'm trying to say, subsidized all these years, and so I continue to think like, why one thing? Okay, we doing everything else. So I'm just not in. I just don't want to do this. I get the free days. I get that. I get the once a month and all that. But I've had several, children, and I've had several people just say the only reason I go is I go out there because it's free. I have nothing else. We don't get paid till the 1st or whatever, and so they can go and enjoy the animals that they would never get to see if they didn't, And so and once a month, maybe that's enough for some people, I don't know, but if that's my only free, or I don't know if the word vice, whatever, that's my only. And so I struggle, with, I'm not comparing it to giving somebody else some money or, waiving fees or whatever, but I just kind of think that as a city, and I know we're in a crunch and so on and so forth, but I am just not, I went on with the museum and I said, okay, I'll even pay that, but I just kind of, I just think for the kids and for society, we got so much going on that I would prefer that it stayed free. And I understand the need, I really, really do, but I as a, advocate for our young people too, I just don't want us to be charging for our zoo. I love the zoo. I don't know about the beaver either, but I like the goose. I've been watching them for years. I grew up here, and so I get all that, and I appreciate the hard work. And this has nothing to do with you. I promise it has nothing to do with you. I know it's a requirement or whatever for you to come up with these kind of things, and I get that and I understand that, and I want to appreciate you and Jim's hard work. Jim offered me a tour, but he never called me saying when he was going, so I'm just saying I'm feeling a little slighted, but I'm okay. I'll work it out with him a little.
Well, you're
I'll call him.
welcome to come by, and I'll give you a tour. Any of you who would like to see the zoo and everything we've done, I would be happy to give you a tour to show you all the improvement and all the hard work my staff in parks and everybody who's put into it.
And I appreciate that, and that is on the list when the cold gets a little, I'm cold, I don't want to go out in the cold.
That's
But
understandable.
So I just want to say thank you very much, and I appreciate y'all, all y'all's hard work. And Jim, I know you take care of the animals in the park, and you do your very best with what little meal stuff that we give you to work with, and I want you to appreciate your hard work, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, I have Counselor Peterson and then Counselor Perry. Counselor Peterson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I disagree with charging people going into the zoo. As a city, we're kind of like a socialist city, like a community. We subsidize things. That's what cities do. Your police, fire, all that, some people consider that socialism. But supporting the zoo, you know, the zoo out there, you know, it's not very good. And it's nothing to do with you or, you know, maybe some of the counselors up here, but comparing it to Living Desert or the Albuquerque Biopark, I mean, those are nice zoos. If we had that here, I would pay all the time.
Well,
But-
I invite you to come out and see everything, because it's not the same as when we close. We've done new enclosures, we've done a lot of improvements. I think people will be very happy to see everything that we've done, and it'll be well worth what we're asking.
Yeah.
I mean, just come see it.
I just don't, I don't see it. And also, I don't see nothing on here about fishing. Are the kids that be able to fish, or?
So the fishing was left out of like the master plan, so that is it is a part of the zoo. It'll be in the zoo side, but on the master plan, we don't have.
So if people are gonna fish, the children are gonna fish there, are they gonna be charged to fish?
If they enter the zoo, yes. I mean, we're still working through some other options, but as of the moment, yes.
Okay. Again, that's another reason I won't support that. You have a lot of poor people, a lot of poor students in this town, and they're not going to be able to afford that. And now you guys are going to take away a fishing place for those children. I'm not going to support this. Thank you, Mayor.
I have Counselor Perry, then Counselor Foster, and that exhausts my list. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, with absolutely no desire to argue, because I think that probably each of us as counselors have already determined where we're going to place our vote in this, but I think it is worth saying that there are other options, and that another option is to close the zoo completely. I'm not for that. But I'm saying that if we do not take care of something that we have and take care of it, one of our counselors has mentioned that it, and I don't want to put words in their mouth because I can't remember the exact wording, but that it wasn't as pleasant maybe as other zoos. Well, there's a reason that in the past it hasn't been as pleasant as other zoos. The other zoos have charged money that has given them the ability to make those zoos what they are. I want to give you, and I want to give Mr. Burris, and I want to give our staff the opportunity to make this zoo what it could be. But if this council will not give them the tools to do it with, it will never be the gem that we all desire for it to be. The work you put into it already is unbelievable. Have we subsidized with air before? Yes, we have. All these things we have. Why do we do those things from time to time? Well, part of economic development is having that airport here, is having those planes coming in and out, is having that service to help in those areas. We recognize that it's not a long-term thing. There is a reason that we are the only zoo left in the state of New Mexico that does not charge fees. The reason for that is that everyone else in the state has figured out if you will charge, you can have a gym in your community. And we frequent the zoos very often. Clovis, wonderful zoo. Alamogordo has a wonderful little gym of a zoo. It is a really nice place to go and to see. Albuquerque, all these other places, they've recognized the ability to make it what it needs to be. I think at this point, we as each council have probably already made our decisions, but I think that it's worth saying. I want our constituents and everyone to understand we're not trying to keep people from utilizing a service. We're going to make it available for all. But the day could come if we do not fix what councils in the past, including myself on past councils, have not had the guts to do, and that's to move forward and give each of these places, the museum or the zoo, whatever those places may be, the ability to do these things to help to enhance what they have. We're going to continue to have what we have, which is great. but it could be even greater, and that's why I, again, will say that I support.
Thank you.
Counselor Foster, that exhausts my list. Counselor Foster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reiterate, and or not reiterate because I didn't bring it up in the first place, but can you go back I think it was one slide. It said the Friends of the Roswell Zoo is free.
Yes.
Do we have that? Did we have the pay structure for the Friends of Roswell Zoo? I didn't see it.
Yes, I have
come
it. Actually, I put it on one of the slides just in case that was a question. So on this slide, membership is in the center. So individuals are $50. Dual pass, which is just 2 people, $65. Family, 6 total, would be $100. Family plus, which would be 10 family members, is $130. Seniors is $35. An individual pass to add to that is just an additional $15, and military is $35.
Okay.
And
And
so membership gets you into the zoo the entire year. It also gets you into 2 of the Friends events, the Silhouette with the Fish and Night of Living Zoo. And then it also gets you discount to other events that we do, as well as our enrichment events that we do with the animals. So that's another way. It's a one fee, but then you can come as much as you want.
And that's what I wanted to just reiterate to our citizens. And I understand $130 is a lot of money for a family, but if a family of 10, if you think about being able to go 360, well, it can't go 365 because we're closed one day a week.
Yeah.
But if you go the 313 days a week with 10, I mean, it brings it down to a very great entertainment. And if you budget and save up for it, it is a great way of supporting our zoo, plus having a great place to go visit. Because I will say again, our citizens will be really surprised at how great our zoo is right now, and it's going to be greater in the months to come. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call for a vote. It's going to be a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 20-72 as amended. A no or nay rejects Resolution 20-72. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez?
Yes.
Counselor Moore? No. Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Peterson?
No.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Oropesa?
No.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-3.
All right, next item up, item number 14. Counselor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that, and there again, just for background, Mr. Mayor, the Finance Committee did not have a quorum. We are grateful that you did go ahead and request this to be placed on the council agenda because this is important for us to move forward with. So with that being said, I make a motion that we pass Resolution 20-73, which is the certification of the fiscal inventory of fixed assets for fiscal year 2020.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Best to approve Resolution 20-73. Mr. Fuentes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councilors. Good evening. So this is an annual resolution required by the state for adoption as part of our audit process. This is pursuant to Section A of Section 12.6.10 of the New Mexico State Statute. Each entity is required to conduct a physical inventory of the assets and also must approve the correctness of the inventory for the fiscal year ending, in this case being fiscal year ending June 30th of 2020. In your packets, you do have a summary of all of the assets and just provides the highlights of all of the items. In front of me, I have this binder, which includes all of the assets for the city, which is what's being requested for approval, and that reconciles with the summary. So at this time, Mr. Mayor and councilors, I will stand for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fuentes. Let the record reflect that Counselor Peterson departed the meeting at 7:56 is what you have, Mr. Call? Okay. Any questions or comments for Mr. Fuentes on this matter? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote. This is a resolution. A yes or aye approves the adoption of Resolution 20-73, the fixed asset certification. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez? Yes. Counselor Moore? Yes. Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Aye.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, next item up is item number 15, Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, Finance was unable to have a quorum. We're grateful that you moved forward with having this placed on the City Council agenda because it is important to clean up and be done with. I make a motion that we approve Resolution 20-74, which is in a budget adjustment for December, ending, which amends the fiscal year ending in June 30 of 2021.
I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Best to approve Resolution 20-74, budget adjustment. Ms. Ray.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is our monthly budget amendment that we bring before you. This includes an increase in revenues by $368,844, as well as the same amount in expense. Going down by fund, in the general fund, we received damage claims for a police unit. In the HIDA fund, which is our task force, we received additional grant money that we had not originally budgeted for. This item does have a time limit, so this money needs to be spent by the end of this month. In the Air Center Fund, we received a reimbursement for some equipment rentals, and we received a damage claim for damage to Hangar 91, and then we also received some accumulated depreciation money from the Hell 17 storm event that we had. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
I have no one on my list, therefore I will ask for a roll call vote. A yes or aye approves Resolution 20-74, budget adjustment. A no or nay rejects it. Ms. Call, please call the roll.
Counselor Foster?
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez? Yes. Counselor Moore? Yes. Counselor Best?
Yes.
Counselor Perry? Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Kennard?
Yes.
Counselor Stubbs?
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, next up is item 16A, or actually item number 7, as it was previously known on our original agenda. Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the award for the professional services agreement in the amount of $499.83 for the design of a wastewater treatment plant dewatering facility to HDR Incorporated of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard and a second by Counselor Perry to approve the awarding of the professional services contract to HDR Incorporated. Mr. Nahar, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. You've seen this picture very many times. We started this a couple of years ago, application for the loan for the dewatering facility. Again, the dewatering facility at the wastewater treatment plant is the final product. Has a lot of water, and we need to squeeze it out so it can dry, become sludge for another product. What we have before you today is HDR was selected through an RFP, which was required for the federal loan process. And the proposal came in, and it's $412,000. Please note that I did negotiate it down from what it was. So $412,399.83 with tax. It went to infrastructure, and it was unanimously recommended. I stand for any questions.
All right. I have no one wishing to comment or question on this matter. I think we'll go ahead and do a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the professional services contract to HDR Incorporated for the wastewater treatment plant dewatering facility. A yes or aye approves the awarding of the contract. A no or nay rejects it. Activate your vote boxes as you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 8-0. All right, next item up is 16B. Counselor Kennard.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve to advertise for public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 20-16, recommending lower interest rate for New Mexico Environment Department Clean Water State Revolving Fund, loan number CWSRF loan 097 to 0.5%.
I have a motion by Counselor Kennard and a second by Counselor Perry to approve the advertisement for a future public hearing and vote on proposed ordinance 20-16. Mr. Nahar, you didn't change the slide.
So I say my tired old picture. Mr. Mayor and Council, what we have before you, in support of building a dewatering facility, and there was an ordinance 19-04 or 09, I can't remember, where we entered into a loan agreement with a 1.2% rate for the $20 million, 20-year note for the $5.5 million principal. Knowing the rules, the interest change, we have not drawn any money. So it requires another ordinance so we can go back and we can get it adjusted from 1.2 to 0.5% interest, and should save a substantial amount of money in interest. Again, this is an ordinance. You got to have advertised to have a public hearing. So I'll be back next month, and I stand for any questions.
I have no one wishing to speak on my list here, so I will call for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the authorization to advertise for a public hearing and vote at a later date. A no or nay rejects the authorization to advertise for a public hearing and vote. Once again, a yes or aye approves the authorization to advertise. A no or nay rejects it. Please activate your vote box as you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 8-0.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Next up is item number 17, Counselor Stubbs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At Mayor Kentai's recommendation, I move to approve Dr. Sean Powell to fill the unexpired term on the Airport Advisory Commission expiring March 31st, 2021.
Good
Ms.
evening.
Call. Oh, wait,
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Stubbs and a second by Counselor Foster to approve the nomination of Dr. Sean Powell to the Airport Advisory Commission. Ms. Call.
Good
Sorry.
evening, Mayor, councilors. The Airport Advisory Board is a 5-member committee. We have position 5 vacant, and that's due to Mr. Kunkel's resignation. The recommendation for that board, as Councilor Stubbs said, is Dr. Sean Powell. This is a partial term until March 31st of 21. Have any questions?
Any questions or comments? If not, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the nomination of Dr. Sean Powell to the Airport Advisory Commission for the unexpired term. A no or nay rejects that nomination. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Seeing none, hearing none, passes 8-0. Next up is item number 18, Counselor Perry.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that we purchase a landfill compactor, which would be a Wagner Caterpillar Model 836K, for the use of landfill as landfill compactor from Wagner Cat at the cost of $1,234,434.
I have I have a motion by Counselor Perry and a second by Counselor Kennard to authorize the purchase of a Wagner Caterpillar Model 836K. Ms. Hicks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am happy to present to you this evening a very expensive purchase that is needed for the landfill department. The landfill, of course, you know, uses the compactor to take the refuse and smash it down into the cell and get rid of all the air pockets that might keep it from becoming a hardened, packed unit. Right now, we have two compactors. One is a light-duty compactor that weighs around 80,000 pounds. The other one is a heavy-duty compactor, but it has been broke down for the last 6 months, I believe. So we've been using our light-duty compactor that's not designed to be used every day. We just are supposed to be using that for the times when we need to service the heavy-duty one. And so we're not getting the compaction rate that we currently need to keep the cell from filling up faster than we have anticipated and needing to open another cell in a more rapid manner. So we've got some pictures. This is our old compactor. It's a 2011. It was slated to be gotten rid of this year. Unfortunately, it didn't quite make it to when we were going to get rid of it. It needs, I think, about $35,000 of repairs just to kind of get started. This one is a picture of the new, let's see. So this is our light duty one. This is a picture of our light duty one. And it only weighs 81,000 pounds versus the 107,000 pounds that we have on our heavy duty. But the new one that we're wanting to buy, maybe it's not on there. It kind of looks like this one, but it is a little bit longer, and it has some really nice skid plates underneath it to keep the debris from getting trapped in various places on the machine. But anyway, it weighs 123,000 pounds, and it's a monstrosity. It's going to take 3 trucks to get it here, and they have to assemble it on site. So I don't know if you have any questions, but I will answer whatever I can.
I have Counselor Perry and Counselor Moore on my list. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number one, if everyone would look on page 147 and 149, you can see a little bit of a difference. You can see the two different pictures there that would help. A couple of things, and I see Mr. Fuentes here, so I'm glad he's coming up because he'll help with some of this. We listened to Eric, and his last name escapes me.
Harrigan.
Hannigan.
Harrigan.
He has done wonderful work for the city of Roswell for years. I don't know how long, but since I've been a counselor, it seems like we've had him with capital markets. He gave a presentation that was really exciting. A couple of things that I think is exciting for this council to know is with our outstanding general obligation bonds right now, we only have an outstanding amount of $770,000. Now, I know that sounds astronomical, but when you take it into comparison of what our bond capability is, it's nowhere near. So that's an exciting thing. We've been very studious as a council to try to keep from having to jump into things that would require this. So that is scheduled to be paid off by August 2022. So a couple of things that we could consider in here with only having $770,000 left in the GO bonds obligated at this time is outstanding, and interest rates at an all-time low. I think it behooves us, and Mr. Fuentes can answer to this, to go ahead and vote tonight to do this. But to take up in the Finance Committee in January the possibility of making this application. And Mr. Fuentes, if you can explain to us, if we did choose to go with the option of a GO bond, that would free up monies that could be utilized for other areas of services in the city, number one. But number two, the timeline on how long it'd take the GO bond and what the process would be if we voted on it tonight and then proceeded with the GO bond consideration in January.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor Perry and Mayor Councilors. So just for clarification, so the presentation that was presented by RBC to the Finance Committee covered 3 items. One, it was the 2008 GEO bond that Councilor Perry just summarized, that is coming up for maturing and has the ability to be reissued for additional funding sources. However, that presentation was specifically for the possibility of reissuance for roads, sidewalks, and other improvements. Now, there was another presentation that dealt with airport possibility of issuing additional debt for airport, and as well as this purchase here, which would be a loan. And as Councilor Perry stated, right now with interest rates being as low as they are, which it would be a little bit higher of a 1% if we went after a loan with New Mexico Finance Authority, it is a good time for us to be able to do so. One of the things that we've been doing with the enterprise funds for the city with the water, wastewater, solid waste, and landfill, we've been separating those. This would be a purchase, a capital purchase for the landfill. Right now, the landfill and all of the enterprises are going through a rate study, so this will give us the ability to factor some of those needs into the rate study as well. Because water and wastewater are self-sustaining. The collection side of the sanitation is doing well, however, not so much the landfill will need to adjust. So what the request is tonight, in addition for the authorization to purchase the equipment, is also to authorize the loan, staff to seek out a loan. What we're asking is for the funding, because this equipment is already on site, it can be delivered. However, we're asking also to pay it upfront, and then the loan will reimburse the sanitation fund for collection. We can do that. I did check with RBC Capital, and we have to do that by resolution to specify that that's the intent of the council. So both the GEO bond will be forthcoming at a future meeting to the Finance Committee, and as well tonight, if the council decides to authorize the purchase, we're also asking the ability to do so by loan, and to include the ability to get it reimbursed, use it as a reimbursement mechanism to the sanitation collection fund. And with that, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Perry, I will stand for questions.
All right, Councilor, you still have the floor.
Yes, and I'm done. Just to say thank you for clarifying that. I didn't mean to jumble up everything into one. I was trying to speak everything so quickly. But we had a great presentation, and we have the abilities right now. So I think that I don't want this council to be scared because of such a large amount. We've got ways of being able to utilize this, and I think putting this issue off any longer is going to cost us significantly more money in the future. I joked with Mr. Nahar that I find it funny that a light duty is 80,000 pounds, but regardless, it is not able to do the job that is necessary. And we're going to spend more money. Abraham, I don't see him, but there he is. And I don't know if there's a need to be spoken, but if we do not move and get something like this done, I would see that the light duties probably, because it's not built to do what we're using it for right now, so we're probably going to be looking at massive repairs to it in the near future if we don't take care of it. Number two, we're taking up more cell space than we've calculated for, so it's going to cost us more in the future if we don't deal with this now.
So thank you, Councilman, Mayor, Council, just as Becky explained to you, because we're using light-duty vehicles, so what's happening, the cell was growing at a large amount faster, so we didn't plan for that. So with a heavier compactor, and lasts a longer time, the money that we'll save with the repairs that we put in the L-John, we'll be able to compact the cell better, extend the life of that cell before we get into the next cell, which is going to be a significant amount of money. So like you were saying, Councilor Perry, this is kind of a critical issue that we've noticed here, especially when the COVID pandemic hit. A lot of the refuse started rising significantly, so we're bringing in a lot more refuse to the landfill.
Okay. All right, I have Councilor Moore, Councilor Best, and Councilor Orpesa. Councilor Moore, you have the floor.
On the one that's the old one, is there plans still to repair that? So if we have some other thing, or is that not part of it? Would we get rid of it? I'm just asking.
We do want to repair it. We just don't want to invest a significant amount of funds, but we will have it available. So we could run both. We could have it as a spare as well.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. And also on the with this, once you get the big one or whichever, the new one, will you be able to go back and compact what's already been, will you be able to recoup some of that space?
Yes, we would. So that's kind of some of the things we've been anticipating, depending on the vote today, that when we do get the machine up there, we are going to see some significant settling, so we're preparing for that now.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
I have Counselor Best and Counselor Orpesa. Counselor Best, you have the floor.
So I have two questions. Since you're already up there, Abraham, Fleet One is capable of repairing that cat?
Yes, we actually built in we have warranties that we have with CAT. We're within their service range, so they'll be able to come out and assist Fleet One to make the repairs.
Okay, so the new one?
Yes.
Okay. The old one's going to be a crapshoot, I can tell you that already.
Yes, ma'am.
So I talked to Wagner Cat today, and they will be, like Abraham said, assisting us with any repairs. And also, they're going to come out and physically train First Vehicle in some of the maintenance issues for that tractor.
Oh, we should charge Fleet One for that, for getting that training. Okay, that's all I had for you, Abraham. Mr. Fuentes, explain to me again from what you're wanting to do is purchase this, go ahead and purchase this, and then January approach a bond. Is that what I'm saying, hearing?
Councilor Best, again, the bond it's a separate item, that's for another use. What we're talking about is a loan.
Okay,
A
so you're
loan.
looking at a loan, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
it would be an NMFA loan, and what we're asking is the ability to authorize the loan option, but to reimburse the sanitation fund for the purchase of the compactor. That's what the, in addition to the authorization of the request for the equipment, is to finance it in that mechanism.
So you've got a 2-for-1 in this?
Yes.
Okay. I apparently didn't read it the way I thought I should have read it. Okay, so you're wanting out of this one vote, you're wanting two things. One to purchase it and one to walk on to the loan.
Yes.
Thank you.
As presented, yes.
Thank you.
All right, I have Counselor Orpesa and Counselor Foster. Counselor Orpesa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not have the money to be able to purchase this?
Councilor Oropesa and Mayor Councilors, as I stated earlier, right now what we're separating all of the enterprises. Specifically in the sanitation, we have the sanitation collection side and the landfill side. On the collection side is because of the rates that we apply for the regular trash pickup. It does generate enough revenue where it's building a reserve. On the landfill side, it's not doing as well, so it's being subsidized by the collection side. So right now, we're undergoing a rate study that's going to help us to fix that so that both enterprises are actually paying for themselves through their fees. So right now, what we're asking is, that's the reason for using the collection ending cash balance to be able to pay it upfront, but then, of course, with the loan, we'll reimburse that enterprise. So that's that's how we're proposing and recommending to be able to finance this and this item.
So how much are we talking about as far as the loan is concerned? Are we talking about just the 1.2 million?
It will be the amount of the equipment, the 1.2 million, and of course, if there's any other small fees that may be part of the structuring of the loan. And that will be forthcoming to the council in a resolution form, in an agreement form, all transparent.
But right now, we have the ability to pay for it, period.
If we use another fund's reserves.
And what kind of effect would that have on the reserves?
Well, it would be reduced by that amount.
Well, I understand that, but how much would be left, I guess, in the reserves if we go ahead and use the reserves to pay for it outright?
As of the first quarter of the DFA report that we submitted for the sanitation, at the end of the first quarter, which is June, July, August, September, the end of September, we had around, I would say around $5 million on the sanitation enterprise. And as I stated earlier, the That's, for the most part, that reserve there, the majority belongs to the collection side. The landfill, in looking at the financials on the revenue and expenses, it's not generating enough revenue to offset all of the expenses. I will say that, as Abraham mentioned earlier, with this equipment will help to, to extend the life of the cell, because there is some projects that are coming up that will require to open new cells. I believe it's cell 5A and possibly even cell 5B, and we're going to be talking about additional millions of dollars of need for that, for those cells there for the landfills. So, we're trying to kind of be able to address even future needs as well. So this will kind of begin to set us up so that we are able to have a landfill operation that is self-sustaining with all of their capital needs.
So, again, what amount are we talking about if we're going to get a loan?
If we get a loan, the equipment itself is $1.2 million. So the loan will be for $1.2 million. And there might be just some small fees that, as part of the loan structuring, that we have to do. So for the most part, it's going to be around. So as presented by RBC Capital, for a 10-year loan at 1.2, we're looking at about $135,000 a year. Interest alone would only be a little bit shy of under $80,000 of interest for the 10 years.
And what kind of effect is it going to have on our debt service?
Again, it will just be that much more increase on our debt service. We will have the ability to pay for that. Again, taking advantage of the way the interest rates are, it will not be a big burden on the enterprise.
What is our debt service right now?
For as the city as a whole?
Yeah.
I don't have that information with me, but I can certainly get it for you, Counselor, and for everybody.
No, I certainly support buying it, because I know it's a necessity out there. Absolutely. What I'm having trouble is, why do we have to go to a loan or bonds if indeed we have the money to be able to buy it outright?
And that was a question that was even asked at the Finance Committee to RBC. And I think right now what we want to be able to do is take advantage of the low interest rates, preserve our cash for some of the other needs that we have, whether it's small equipment items that we might have to purchase. And right now, with the interest rates being so low as they are, a lot of the communities are taking advantage of taking out those loans because the interest rates are so low. So that is the benefit that we have the opportunity right now versus down the road where interest rates are going to be a lot higher. There's a lot other needs in the landfill right now with the Abraham. He came in a little bit after we have established the budget, but now with a full year going into the new fiscal year, we're going to be looking at the operation. There's probably going to be a lot more other needs. So we want to be able to preserve that cash so that we can be able to have those resources to apply it towards those other things. Again, taking advantage of the low interest, it would make for a good opportunity for us to do so. In my opinion.
And I understand that, and like I said, I think this is an important item that we need to go ahead and purchase, and I'm going to support it at the point that we are going to outright buy it. And then what I'm probably not going to support when you come in for the loan itself or the bonds, because I feel that if we have the money to spend it and use it, then we should do that. And whatever comes up next, and if we need to go and borrow money at that point, then we look at it at that point. But right now, it seems like we have plenty of money to be able to purchase it outright without having to borrow or go through bonds or whatever. So, but I do know that this is a very important part for the operation. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Foster and then Counselor Perry. Counselor Foster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I concur to a certain degree with Councilor Opesa that if we can borrow the money from the other side and pay the interest to the other side, then I'd rather pay interest to ourselves than, and the cost of the actual loan. But I do understand that in the book, sometimes it is better to take out a loan. But Mayor, I just want a little bit of indulgence now since Abraham was up there, I just wanted to sing his praises and sing the praises of our sanitation. I had a constituent call me saying that he had thought he might have thrown his wallet away, and so I called Abraham and I said, would you happen to know if this address, we had picked up this address? And he goes, I can tell you. Heck, he sent me a text showing me it was picked up at 11:39. The truck was driving 2 miles an hour. He goes, and then he got back with me and he said, and I can tell you exactly where it is out at our debris field out in the cell. He goes, unfortunately, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and he says, and we've dumped a lot on top of it since then. And I was truly impressed that we have that technology and that capability now that we can track down to just a few square yards of where my trash can or your trash can got dumped. And he did it in such a, I mean, it is cool to have that technology. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the gentleman found his wallet someplace else, and so we were good. But I was glad to get it back to our constituent and let him know that, yes, we can tell you your trash was picked up at 11:39, and I can show you out on the field where it is if you want to go dig for it. He didn't want to dig, but thank you very much.
Counselor, you're giving me a flashback to an incident, a bank robbery in Florida about 1984. We'll talk about it some other time. Counselor Perry, you have the floor.
I wasn't going to ask this, but I would love to have a cup of coffee with you and find out where I can buy this technology and put on my teenagers' vehicles. This is amazing. Wow. Okay. Anyway, that's a side note. Just Juan, if I could, just real quickly, just for clarification, I just want us to understand, and I understand Councilor Orpace's hesitations, and I respect those. I understand that Councilor Foster's thoughts, but we're talking about an interest rate of where about right now? Where are we looking at?
What we're looking at, interest rate for the life of the loan, just shy of 1%, 1.065%. For the 10-year loan, we're looking at $76,247 of interest.
That's my figures here, $76,247. Now, I just want to paint a picture that we need to all look at. Interest rates are good right now. Stock market is coming back up. We saw one stock over 100% growth in one day today. Wish I would have bought a few days ago, but I did not. We're doing well right now. But if you will also remember, we were doing really well in 1973. Interest rates were low. And then the day came and we had, and this, I'm not trying to get political by any means, this could happen under any president, Republican, Democrat, or anything, but then we had the years of Jimmy Carter and Walter Mondale when interest rates were unbelievable across the board. I would rather, while it is as low as it is right now, utilize that tool to allow for our monies to be used for some of these other projects instead of pouring the funds out right now. And then when you've got a problem with that next sale and we're needing a substantial amount of money right now and those interest rates go, how high have you seen interest rates with this kind of funding before?
Well, I mean, we've seen NMFA loans that interest rates have ranged between 3% and 4%. You know, again, that's why right now it's really a good opportunity from the NMFA side to be able to get that loan. And it's a fairly quick process, and again, because a lot of communities do take advantage of it. So again, that's what I've seen in the past.
And it could go higher than 4%.
Yes.
We just do not know. When we have the opportunity to work with the NMFA on a project like this, at a time like this, that allows those funds to be available when interest rates are higher to use that money, we save money in the long run. So I appreciate the work y'all put into this, and look forward to supporting this.
All right, that exhausts my list. I'm going to ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the purchase of the Wagner Caterpillar Model 836 for use as a land compactor. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Once again, a yes or aye approves the purchase. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, passes 8-0. Next up, item number 19, Councilor Perry.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, there again, just for minutes and all, I know that we did not, Finance was not able to hear this. Mayor Kintai placed this on the agenda for us to move forward with tonight. I make a motion that we approve the HIDTA grant funds from the Office of National Drug Control to purchase 2 new pickup trucks.
I have a motion by Councilor Perry and a second by Councilor Foster to approve the spending of additional HIDA grant funds to purchase 2 new pickups. Ms. Hicks.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This was a fun project. This is not our money that we're spending. This is the federal government's money that we're spending. They have $95,000 to purchase vehicles. And if I understand Yasmin correctly, that money has to be spent just on the vehicles themselves, not outfitting them or anything else, but actually just on the vehicles. So they were able to look online, and they went to Malloy Chevrolet because they both wanted a Chevy pickup, and got some really picked 2 cute vehicles, and we got a quote, and we're ready to purchase them as soon as you authorize us to use this money.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Councilor? Oh, I'm sorry. Anything else there we need to look at? We've all seen this before.
Well, this is the money that we have to spend by December 31st, otherwise we lose the opportunity.
Yeah, that's just all I wanted to say, Mr. Mayor. I was in the queue there. We have to expend it, and it's going to be coming through Lee County just because of how that.
Lee County is the fiduciary agent, correct?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Councilor Perry. Does that conclude your, because you jumped on my list here. Councilor Perry, you concluded?
Yeah, oh, yes, sir.
Okay. I have Councilor Best and Councilor Foster. Councilor Best, you have the floor.
So, Ms. Becky, I'm curious, what department gets these 2 vehicles?
This is the HIDA task force.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. That was it.
High-intensity drug trafficking
High-intensity
area.
drug trafficking.
area.
Yeah,
Sometimes the abbreviations just don't capiche, you know?
All right.
Thank you.
And now, Councilor Foster, you have the floor.
And my only reserve on this is just looking at 95,000 and thinking 2 pickups. But I know the prices of vehicles are high, but it takes me back a few years to where we ended up having to buy I believe, a Toyota Tundra that had to have specific, and the RFP was written to the point where it was a specific vehicle that we had to buy because of the way the RFP was hit. I just wanted to make sure that when we look at the 2 pickups that they're not extravagant. If we could get 3 for the same deal, let's look at it. But that's would be my only reserve on it. But I am for this, so thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor. I have no one else wishing to speak. Councilor Moore. Councilor, you have the floor.
Well, they're not just your standard white fleet.
Okay. All right. I have no one else on my list. At this time, I'll ask for a voice vote. A yes or aye approves the use of HIDA grant funds to purchase 2 new pickups. A no or nay rejects the purchase. Please activate your vote box when you respond. Once again, a yes or aye approves the purchase. A no or nay rejects it. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, seeing none, oh, yes, there is. I have a 7-1. Councilor Sanchez is a no. All right. Mr.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No public participation.
No public participation.
All
Nobody
right.
signed up.
Mayor, City Council, if I can just take a little bit of your time, I wanted to catch you up on a few things that have been out there and they've been percolating. I sent out my report before the meeting, and I'm going to go through some of that in a little greater detail. All of these things will be coming back to one of the committees in order to have further discussion, but I wanted to make sure that I answer any questions that you may have with these. I have about 3 items on here, 4 if you count the just talking about the workshop on Saturday. But wanted to talk a little bit about the American Airlines service. If you remember back at the end of August, Roswell's American Air Service was on the brink of cancellation along with 14 other small service cities. Through the mayor's leadership and other individuals' assistance, including city councilors and staff, Roswell was successfully removed from that list with 2 other cities. American Airlines is struggling through this pandemic in the same manner of all the other businesses out there and was hoping for an extension of the federal payroll protection program. No extensions were granted as of today, and American is again looking at ways to hold on through this difficult time. American reached out to Roswell in November and asked if the city would be willing to waive the parking fees for 3 months for its planes as a sign of our partnership. The intent of the request was to show the American decision makers that Roswell appreciates the partnership and is willing to help American in a small way to hold on and keep flying. While we were not able to get a firm commitment of no future changes from American, our plan provides for a waiver at the end of each month, beginning with the month of October and ending with the December, which that decision would be made in January. By providing a waiver at the end of each month, we can evaluate if there are any negative impacts felt by Roswell through American's decisions. Essentially, we will check to see if flights to and from Roswell have increased, stayed the same, or been reduced before signing the next month's waiver. American has agreed to hold discussions with Roswell to bring back the previous service model with the hope of for expansion at the end of the pandemic. And so we do have that acknowledgement that they are willing to talk with us about those services. Each monthly parking waiver is approximately $58,000. The October waiver was approved administratively, but in order to continue, we would like to have council action. So this item will be coming forward to a committee nearest you in order for further discussion and for further consideration. But I wanted to make sure I laid that out there because administratively, we're already through the month of November. And so I approved the October at the beginning of December. So we have our 2 months coming up there. I did share, I believe, the email that I received from American on that. Very appreciative. That will go up to the people that are making the decisions on the flights. And just for your information on where we're at with the flights, we have 2 flights a day in and out to Denver or Dallas. We do not have the Phoenix flight, and we do not have that 3rd flight from to and from Dallas. And so the intent was to try to keep that transportation hub operating within the city of Roswell, and we've been successful. Outside of this meeting, I'm happy to talk to everybody individually about what is happening in the industry, in the field, but I'd rather just keep it to this topic here. I'll finish my spiel and then you can come back to that, so please hold your questions. The next item involves that we have a remaining 6 days of furloughs scheduled from January through June for all employees of the city. Estimated cost of the remaining furlough is approximately $960,000. Our plan is to remove these furloughs by the refunded CARES Act revenue. And so we were successful in receiving $5.5 million of CARES Act funding that went to helping pay for our public safety salaries and through that. Because of our budget, what we are doing is that we are going to get refunded those salaries, and then what we'll want to do is reallocate that money in order to take these furloughs out. One of the things and one of the reasons why we want to get the furloughs off and completed is that we're getting ready to go into the next budget cycle. We're starting to see signs of the GRT tightening up a little bit. Our three biggest factors within that was retail, trade, construction, and healthcare. That's our three biggest categories through the whole COVID. What we've seen in the last month, even though our number was okay for $2.9 million for the last month, we saw retail trade down, we saw construction down. Healthcare remains up because, again, of the needs that are out there for the pandemic. But I think the challenge we have with this is that we're going to see the budget tighten up. The nice thing about what we did within the budget structure from last year is that we will get to utilize a surgical knife rather than a machete for this year as we look through that. At least I'm very hopeful for that. But the intent is that we will be bringing forward to the Finance Committee, eventually to the City Council, a budget amendment that will correct the budget because we have not changed any of the furloughs within the budget. So our budget actually looks worse than what it really is, but we have to do those budget amendments in order to shore that up. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware we are wanting to go ahead and take the other 6 days of furloughs out, and we intend to use the refunding of the CARES Act. Until there is council action, we will do that on a monthly basis, but once that budget amendment is prepared, we'll prepare it for the 6 days to go away, and it'll be up to your decision as to how we do that, but administratively, we'll deal with this on a month-by-month basis. The next item is a Hangar 84 doghouse project. Hangar 84 is the building that Stewart Industries was in. It was actually the hangar that the autopsy was performed in.
Mr. Nebb, this room is not cleared to discuss that.
I'm sorry. Please forgive that I even said anything about the autopsy. But just so you know, when COVID hit, of course, there was a lot of federal funding in order to get out there, and a part of the CARES Act money was for a program called the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program. And when that came out, it can do a lot of public works projects. It can do a lot of different things. And so early this year, a doghouse project, and I'll explain what a doghouse is in a second here too. It's a Kevin Bacon was here, that would be a pig house, right? No, I'm sorry. But a doghouse project for Hangar 84 was conceived through a request from the business that is occupying the hangar. Our hangars, of course, are old, and they're actually too small for some of the larger planes that we are servicing out there. So a doghouse is actually an extension on the end of one of the hangars, and that allows for a bigger plane to be placed inside there. And at that point in time, the business reached out, I believe, to the city. I believe the business reached out to the EDC. Is there any way we can get this done? At that point in time, I guess through the entire process, this is an $8 million project to put a doghouse and do all of the taxiway around this building. If it was left up to the city, it would have been a challenge in order to get this project done within that. We did phase it out, so we're looking at a business improvement piece as well as a taxiway piece because we can utilize different funds for different portions of this project. Through staff and discussions with the Airport Advisory Commission, we did break it up into phases, and it was done for those reasons for the different funding. In May, the EDA announced this new grant program for the Economic Adjustment Assistance Program to support governments. Within this thing, the short ending to this story is that Roswell is tentatively approved for $2 million of EDA funding. We have actually some preliminary commitments of up to $1.5 million of state and other funding. So we have the business that's willing to kick in a little. We have 2 different state grants that we believe that are tentatively considered at this point in time. And so we are currently working on an amended grant application to keep us in the running. So EDA gave us a letter within, I think, the last couple weeks. And within that letter, it said that we like what you're thinking. We're willing to commit to $2 million. Please correct your application. We did start with 5, by the way. We were asking for $5 million, which would have been a lot nicer it went down to 3, and then it went down to 2. It's a very competitive process. So we have been tentatively approved for this, and so we're trying to work on how to shore all of this up. So December 14th, we have to get the amended grant application in there. And so we are putting in that tentative funding and all of that. But I wanted to bring you up to date on that because one thing that doesn't work normal for this year is all these grant opportunities that are flowing in and out very quickly. You know, I mean, we got the new business loans out there right now that the state are actually functioning with. Everybody's applying for that. There's a tourism piece. There's all these different pieces out there. We have to kind of be ready to kind of jump on that. If you were to take the $6 million project, $2 million of that is 33% of that project. We should never give up on free money without walking through all of these processes. Not sure how we're going to close it all, but I wanted to bring you up to date with that so that you can be prepared, because we're going to send in the grant application, and if it's approved, I'm afraid that it might move faster than we normally do, and so I want to make sure that you're up to date with it, and then we'll be bringing it through legal, finance, in order to determine exactly how to be successful with that project. Last item was on the City Council workshop. This Saturday from 10 to 2, the City Council will meet in a workshop format to discuss the governing rules of order and the sports tourism initiative. The rules of order are important to the council of this size as they help everyone understand certain standards of engagement and debate to move an item from conceptual stage to the final consideration. It's been a couple of years since we've actually discussed any updates to that, the rules of order, so this will be a good exercise for the City Council. We are going to make it as painless as possible to walk through it, so I appreciate everybody to help with that as well too, but want to make sure that we walk through that, because again, even as of tonight, we had a lot of work that we went through, and it constantly changes, it constantly moves. And so I think everybody having an understanding of what our standardization is of our process will be very important. The Sports Tourism Initiative was conceived at the last council retreat with the general consensus of the City Council that Roswell was uniquely situated by location, weather, and resources to be successful with this type of an initiative. Staff has been working on some foundational pieces that will be important if the city commits to this effort, and our goal is to bring you up to date with where we are at with that. All of this work that we've been talking about with the ball fields and everything play a part of exactly where we've been headed. We are now at that point that there's some decisions that will need to be made, so we want to bring you up to date with what staff has been planning and what we've been preparing for. Other than that, I'm gonna say my thank you, and then I'll answer any questions. But I want to thank you for all of your service tonight. It is appreciated. As this is the last regular meeting before the new year, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and see you on Saturday. Mayor, City Council, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I have Councilor Perry. Councilor Perry, you've got the floor.
Yes, sir. Just a few things. I think so many times there's things, there's a lot of busy work that's done behind the scenes, and folks don't get to hear it. Sometimes we as a council, the governing body, come out and people get frustrated because things are not happening the way they think, and they don't get to see what happens behind the scenes. With the American Airlines service, I just want to publicly say that the work that Mr. Mayor and you and Scott put into that, I was able to be in some of those conversations, and the mayor championed that in a significant way for our community. And there's no doubt in my mind, without that conversation that day, that we would not have had service over the last few months. So I personally appreciate the work that all of y'all put into that, Scott, all of you. It really paid off, and we keep moving forward to try to keep that service for our folks. The other thing that I just wanted to ask about, no, that's good for another day. That's good for another day. Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy Hanukkah to Councilor Stubbs. Hanukkah starts tonight, and I look forward to seeing what the Lord has for us in the new year.
I have no one else on my list. So, since we have no more questions, time now is 8:52. Freudian slip there. 8:52. We are adjourned.